My manager promised his manager that we could get our work done 2 weeks before the agreed timeline, so I made him work on Saturday with me.
Almost 10 years ago, I worked at a company where my department analyzed survey and secondary data, compiling it into handbooks each quarter. After 6 months of joining the department, my manager, who joined us 2 months after me, reorganized our tasks in an attempt to improve our efficiency. This manager was promoted internally and was notorious for kissing up to management. He was technically not qualified for the promotion due to a different background required for our department, but one of the C-suite members liked him a lot. He did have some expertise in other areas, but generally had an unpleasant personality, so many people in the company didn't like him much. Along with 3 new projects, I was assigned the handbook task for the first time. The meeting was in February, so my first handbook would be for that year's quarter 1. In the meeting I also asked my colleague who had managed the project for 4 years to explain the usual timeline. She said it took 6 months, a time frame agreed upon by management for years, considering the person handling it would also have other important projects. This means, for quarter 1 data, the printed copies of the handbook need to be ready by 30th of September. The 6-month period includes collecting the analysis from survey managers, and for secondary data, I would have to contact the data owner and do the analysis myself. I also have to work closely with the outsource company that does the design and printing. I carried out the handbook project smoothly along with my other tasks, and by late July, the only thing left for me to do was to proofread the content. The next procedure required me, my manager, and the designer to review and finalize every page before sending it to the unit head for approval. Printing and delivery take about 2 to 3 weeks, so we aimed to submit the design by mid-August and confirm the final version for printing by the last week of August. However, on the last Friday of July, a whole 2 weeks before our target timeline to send the design to the unit head, this conversation happened. Manager, OP, I need you to finalize everything today, because we are sending the design to the unit head on Monday. Me, next Monday? Why? We have 2 weeks. Manager, well, the unit head wants to see some changes around here, so I thought we could speed up the publication of this handbook to start. I told the unit head we would send the design to her on Monday. Me, okay, you could have discussed this with me first. I mean, the proofreading is almost done, I can get it done by today, but we still need to sit down with the designer to finalize and sign off. The appointment is in a week. Manager, can you do it tomorrow? Go ask the designer. Now, it was not normal in our company to come to the office and work on weekend. And of course I already had a plan for that weekend, so this was really annoying to me. At least I knew that the designer would have no issue moving it to the next day, because he is very cooperative. Me, I can try, but tomorrow is Saturday. I'm not sure if he can make it. And are you sure we want to rush this? Because even if we meet the designer tomorrow, the hard copy will be delivered just 2 weeks earlier than the normal deadline. Is it that significant? Manager, yes. Just go ask the designer now. So, I called the designer, and as expected, he had no problem meeting on Saturday. Me, Mr. Manager, the designer is okay to meet tomorrow. Is 10 a.m. okay with you? Manager, huh? Puzzled look. Me, You also need to be there for the sign-off. Manager, I do? Me, yes, you literally need to sign off on the final version to send to the unit head. It's the normal procedure. TBH, he didn't need to be there aside from following procedure. He had already seen the design a few times and likely wouldn't have contributed much to the meeting. I would have loved for him not to be there anyway. But at that point, I was quite excited to make him come to the office on the weekend when he obviously didn't realize he also had to be there with the designer. Manager, I can't tomorrow, I'm going somewhere until Sunday. Me, well, if you want to send this to the unit head on Monday, then you have to be here tomorrow. Manager, sigh, let me get back to you. About half an hour later, He came up to me with the sourest face ever, 10 a.m. tomorrow is fine, and walked away. I'm guessing he must have pissed off someone when he had to change/cancel his weekend plan. So the next day, he came in 1 hour late, not smiling at all, and was rude to the designer and me. He was really unhappy to be in the office on that day, but we got it done by 1 p.m. The following week, the story of how /I/ made my manager come to work on Saturday was told around the company. Apparently, the plan that he had for the weekend was a group trip with some of his buddies who also worked in the company, and he had to make new arrangements to get to the place by himself and arrived late. A lot of people thought it was really funny, including the unit head and some of his buddies, and laughed at the image of him walking into the office on Saturday for some trivial yet necessary work. Nevertheless, the next 2 years that I worked on the handbook, he never promised anyone to have the handbook ready before the 6-month timeline.
Comment 1. I've helped pull this one myself. We had a project due June 1st, just some internal would be nice, that had been backburnered thanks to a medical issue with one of the stakeholders in another department. It wasn't a big deal, but the big boss thought it was going to make him look bad, so he put it back on the active list. We groaned and pointed out that without the stakeholder we were pretty much dead in the water. But he insisted. Fine. Every time we would have involved the other guy, we substituted our boss instead. He outranked the other fellow and could do approvals on his behalf after all. We scheduled meetings when he'd normally be sneaking out to play golf for 5 minutes after lunch ended, so he had to come back on time, and, while it annoyed him, he didn't give up. So one of the other guys stepped up our little game and scheduled an 8 a.m. meeting on Saturday to catch up on lost time. Sure, we were all pissed at him, but we weren't even a tenth as pissed as the boss would be, so we didn't complain. Boss had to cancel a weekend in Vegas to attend and grumbled the entire morning. Come Monday, when he opened his calendar and saw a second Saturday meeting scheduled, he put the project back on inactive. He was now confident we were now in a good place to pause. Didn't stop us fucking with him though. All meetings were now 5 minutes after lunch or at 3:30 on a Wednesday if they involved him. Comment 2, nice one. No manager should be asking someone to do longer hours without themselves doing them too. Comment 3, nice. I once worked for a small agency whose CEO/owner would overpromise out of fear of losing work, so between 2 and 5 people were always working late. Sometimes until midnight and several times until 3 a.m. and coming back to the office at 7 a.m. One of our clients was in Beijing and I would beg him to tell me when his next project was due. He would ghost me for 2 or 3 weeks and then call me at 9 a.m. on a Saturday to tell me that I had to work all weekend. One Saturday he said that he hoped I wasn't disappointing too many people by canceling my plans. I asked him how many people were enough. He had no answer. My last day happened to be some poor smuck's first day, and at 11 p.m., I handed in my work and told him I was leaving. This was the first time I had spoken to him all day because of our roles, so he asked me why I wasn't shipping it to X. I explained that I was done with my piece and I didn't handle that part and it was my last day, so good luck. His face was pure misery. I always wonder how long he lasted.
Comment 4. I had a similar thing happen to me once. Just before I was going to go to lunch at noon, my manager, Sue, her real name, comes to me saying she needs some report for a 1 o'clock meeting she's going to. Okay, I'll skip lunch to get it done. I see her getting ready to go to lunch. I thought to myself that if she can go to lunch and I can't, I'll make it so she has to stay. I said, what do I do if I have questions for you? You need to be here. She stayed and I made sure I had a couple of questions, but I already knew the answers to them, just to ruin her lunch too.
Comment 5. I was in graphic design for 40 years and it is written in stone that moving timelines up is a guarantee something will be wrong in the approved and final version.
Comment 6. I've had to tell preoperative to do evenings and weekends. I always was at least offering to BR there, just common decency. Even if I literally couldn't help, I can do tea runs, order pizza etc. What the fuck kind of manager dissent pitch in with mandatory overtime?
Story 2. You want to put what in the brand new Camaro?
Years ago, in the early 80s, fresh out of high school, I worked in the stockroom of a now defunct department store. One day I get a call to load some driveway sealer in a customer's car. I show up at the operator's window, the customer show me their receipt. They to the parking lot to retrieve their vehicle. They pull up in a brand new Chevy Berlinetta Camaro with white interior. He asks me to put the 3 large buckets of driveway sealer behind the front seats on the floor. I told him that's not a good idea, he insisted that's what he wanted. So that's what I did. I lifted one of the buckets to move it over and there was a black ring on his brand new carpet. He obviously pitched a fit, asking for the manager, etc. I had the operator page my manager. He shows up, assesses the situation, asks me what happened. I explained to him that I tried to talk him out of it. He looks the guy in the eye and tells him that it's his problem.
Comment 1. Dude should have just bought a cheap plastic drop cloth from the paint department. I've done that many times, and I don't even have a nice car. I'm mildly surprised he didn't have you put them on the seat.
Comment 2, sealed with a kiss of pettiness.
Comment 3. Brand new Camaro with what color upholstery and carpeting? Doesn't matter anyway, it is a new car. Put something down to protect the carpet and upholstery if you're gonna do something. I'll be blunt, stupid like that. The car owner got an education.
Comment 4, huh. At the very least, put a cloth or something under it first. Smiley face.
Comment 5. To be honest, the Berlinetta was 100 horsepower and deserved a much bigger death than a black ring. Comment 6. I don't have a brand new Camaro and my interior is gray, but I always use some type of container/box to put that kind of stuff in, so it does not touch the floor mats or anything else. Sometimes you cannot talk people out of their stupid.